business? Was that something that you've always wanted to do? Or I guess what was the motivation behind getting behind that?
So, I mean, I'd always, since I was, running somebody else, I'd run other people's businesses, right?
Hmm.
Essentially from 20 to almost 33 or something like that, 35 almost. I would run other people's businesses. And I got to a point where I just didn't want to do that anymore. And I met my wife, and that was hugely impactful in a lot of ways for me. Like she was she is an RN, and I was running a company and not, I was fine, but it wasn't wonderful. I was growing this company and got it to the point where the guy said, "Hey, this is wonderful. Everything's like we want it. I'm selling it." And so that kind of led me to say, well, I need to step away from that. But instead of my default, which is go find another company to run, go do what I already know how to do, um, my wife says, "Hey, why don't you like take a minute and try to figure out what you want to do?"
Mm.
Which was a weird place for me to be because I hadn't ever really done that.
Right.
And I can remember really vividly leaving that job and going to her apartment, and she was at work, and sitting down on her couch and staring at a TV that was turned off for like an hour, just thinking, wow, I've
Wow.
never not had a job. And, I had no job. I had no prospect to go get another one. And I had no idea what to do with the time that I had on my hands at that moment. So that was an unusual place for me.
Yeah.
But it was so memorable because I'd never experienced the kind of peace of, oh wow, I'm not worrying about, what's going to happen next. And I always have, right? I've always been like, oh no, I got to plan ahead for that. I'm the guy that leaves an hour earlier than I might need to, right? Got to be ready for all contingencies.
I
You know
know
what I
exactly what
mean?
you mean. I'm that kind of person too.
So to be in a position where I'm not having to think about that was fascinating for me. And at the
Yeah.
same time, I was like, okay, great. Now I get to ask those questions. Like, what do I actually want? If I could go do anything,
Hmm.
what would it be? And I didn't have an answer to that, but I got connected with somebody who um, led some exploration of that for me. And in the interim, I did a little bit of work for them, which was mostly just kind of business consulting for businesses. And then I met somebody else, and I thought I'm going to go back to the world I knew, and I'll just do it for myself and start my own
Mm.
company with that. And that was, and they're like, "Why are you doing that? Like, why don't you do something different? Why don't you come try this?"
Mm.
And this was real estate brokerage and commercial, really mostly about commercial. And so for me, that was kind of a transition that was natural for me because working with business owners to help them with their needs is how it pertains to leasing real estate or buying real estate.
Yeah.
The real estate stuff I can learn. The business stuff, I felt like I already kind of had a good perspective on how, understanding small business to the point where I know what to ask to determine what matters to them, right? And I understand a lot of the big picture stuff. I understand human
Gotcha.
resource, and I understand
Yeah.
costs, and I understand, how to read a balance sheet, and I understand all of that, right? And so I
Sure.
know how, generally speaking, how a lot of people think about how their business um, evolves, right?
Absolutely.
And so that was a kind of a natural progression and opportunity to go learn how to do something new. And I'd always been interested in it in a sense in the real estate, but I
Hmm.
hadn't really understood it, and I hadn't met anybody in it that I liked, quite honestly. um, and so that's kind of what led me into the path of doing what I do now. And I did that like so many other people did, working hanging my license at companies and at a different company, and
Yeah.
kind of forging a path. But then going into business for myself was a whole different thing.
Whole different thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Different ball game.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure your wife now is very happy that you took that time, that hour to stare into that TV because
Yeah.
she sees where you are now. And
Well, I mean, yeah, and where she is too, right? I mean,
mm,
here, I think it's where we are with
right,
her and I,
team.
right?
It's a
Yeah,
team.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have, I don't know that I would be where I am today, right now, with my companies if I didn't have someone like her, saying, "Yeah, go for it,"
Mm,
you know, go for it because I got this,
wow.
because I got you. And so she's like, I got you. Go do what you want to do. Right.
Mm.
And that was, I guess that's the aha moment for me. I haven't
Mm.
had somebody say, I got you,
Hmm.
but she did. And so, yeah, it's been a journey. We've, like everybody, you got ups and downs and you start figuring out what's important to you. And um, the businesses part is just like, get out of your own way
Yeah.
and start taking chances and start gambling on yourself, roll the dice on yourself because you have your whole life, right?
Mm.
Like, that everything that you've set out to do in your life,
Mm.
you've either accomplished it, right?
Sure.
Or you've decided it wasn't for you.
Mhm.
But no matter what came at you, you have gotten through all of that. Had you not, you wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Mm.
Okay, so if you can remember that all the time, then you'll probably be more likely to take chances on yourself because you know yourself better than anybody, right?
Yeah.
So trust yourself and go out and go for it. Like, when I say show up, I mean show up for you. You want something, go get it.
Mm.
Because it's worked for you all along so far, right? And if you've made bad decisions, then you've learned something from that, right? And you're going to change it. You're going to change the way you did something.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I just think everybody needs to have that kind of mindset.
I
And
agree.
I don't think that that that's something that you're going to learn by
Yeah.
way of anybody other than your family, your friends, your community, but it's not seated in the culture of the way this country is educating people.